Welcome to the second episode of Shaping the Future of Digital Infrastructures, where we unpack how technology, energy, and innovation power the future of digital infrastructures. I'm Jennifer George, correspondent at Fast Company Middle East, and this episode is brought to you by Khazna Data Centers and JLW. We live in a world where technology shapes everything we do, from how we connect to how businesses run. Data serves as the bedrock of this digital shift. In an increasingly data driven world, the engines powering tomorrow's innovation lie hidden in vast, intelligent infrastructures, AI enabled data centers. But what does it truly take to build these digital fortresses of the future? To unpack this unfolding reality in the Middle East, we're chatting with Abdulmajeed Harmoodi at Khazna Data Centers.
Hi, Jennifer.
And joining him is Ramy Boufarhat, CEO of JLW.
Hi, Jennifer.
Welcome, gentlemen. It comes as no surprise to any of us that AI workloads demand immense computing power. Abdulmajeed, I'd like to understand how Khazna's data center's design and construction approaches to attest to these growing requirements. How do you envision execution and design in this vast industry?
Today, we are transforming toward the digital AI economy, and it will impact, you see, all aspects of our lives. So, it will impact the oil and gas, it will impact um, education sector, health sector, transportation sector, and so on and so forth. We as Khazna, we sit at the heart of everything. So the main challenge of AI, it is the power. It comes with an immense power requirement. So the way we do this, we do the business is starting from the planning stage, and I will just touch base a little bit, elaborate on the site selection. So first, we go and we select the site which is complying to the industry standards. So the land and the site should have enough power. It should be scalable. So we are not building, we understand we're not building for today, we're building for tomorrow, for the future. So maybe today's requirement is 5 megawatt, 10 megawatt, 30 megawatt. But we know that 5 years from now, it is hundreds of megawatts. So when we do our site selection, we take into considerations this fact and we select our site according to that. It has also to comply and fulfill, I would say, connectivity requirements. So it has to be in the middle of a connectivity, fiber connectivities, because of the latency requirements and the throughput requirements. It also has to be in a prominent location. So we have to be close to our to our customers and the customer needs and the business hubs. So we have somehow to be in the middle of everything. We can't just select a site in the middle of nowhere and build a data center. No, it should be also taking that into considerations. We don't look at 2025. Always we are looking at the future. We are seeing the horizon.
You're
Twen-
always prospecting.
25, minimum 5 years.
Okay.
You see, that's our how we plan our data center, I would say, approach and business. Then we'll go into the design. The design, again, it should be flexible, okay, and should be scalable. Okay, scalable in terms of the whole infrastructure thing. It's not only the data hall. It's not only the data center building. It's the whole infrastructure of the site. So the land should allow to build, for example, the future expansion of the power substations. Okay, and then all the facilities surrounding from we also not the data center is the data hall, and then everything else. You see, the offices, the systems, the security systems, MEP systems, and so on. Then, of course, it has to comply with all the tiering standards. So we build our data centers as tier 3, usually uptime certified. So all of our data centers are uptime certified. So we need to we are building this tier 3 data centers, you see. And again, one of the I always keep saying, building a tier 3 data center is not difficult. A lot of developers will do that. But what is the key differentiator of Khazna in the market? You see, we are the leader in the market. So what is our key differentiator from the other competitors? It's the quality. We don't settle uh, for if I may phrase it, a tier 2 contractors. We always go with tier 1 contractors.
To add to some of what just Abdulmajeed was talking about tier 1 contractors, of which I'm happy to be in that list.
Yeah.
It just doesn't stop at the contractors. It also flows down to their supply chains. So based on the specifications we receive from Khazna, they're the highest quality specifications. All the brand names that are there, and those brand names specific componentry parts are always of the highest performance and quality requirements. So just to sort of echo what Abdulmajeed's saying, that is a differentiator for Khazna is their selection right through. So who they select as contractors, but who they select as designers, who the contractors can select as their subcontractors and supply chain. All of that is of the highest level in the market.
Well, it sounds like a really intricate ecosystem, and one that both of you have forged a strategic partnership in, and one that is producing results and producing scalable and quality driven results. But I'm sure, Ramy, as you very rightly said, when you are sitting in the position of a contractor and you have subcontractors as well, I'm sure these AI enabled data centers require highly specialized infrastructures. So, what are the most complex challenges when it comes to designing and executing these projects?
The biggest challenge you have with any type of job is the data center job is time and quality. The quality requirement of the data centers, and specifically the Khazna data centers, there's a level that you cannot sort of breach to speed up the progress on site. So what you're going to try to do is you're trying to speed up the schedule as much as possible, but maintaining a certain quality. So how you do that, obviously, is there's sort of two ways to look at it. One is the supply chain, and the second one is construction. And I'll talk about both separately. So with the supply chain, the way that we work with Khazna in securing the supply chain early is they've adopted an EPC model, Khazna. So what that basically means is they will design a concept, detail their specification and the performance requirements for us, so we know what we're supposed to deliver. But they will and tender the project, and if we've been awarded the project, they give that award as an EPC very early on, before the detailing of the design. And so because we receive an EPC contract, a design and build contract as a contractor, and the risk lies with us, we're comfortable in taking some calculated risks for ordering of equipment early. So we were talking about supply chain and the global supply chains. We share the global supply chain with all the data centers around the world, mostly in EMEA as well. So how do we secure those for the projects for Khazna? They've adopted this EPC model. They've given us the project from the outset and said, this is complete the design the way that we want you to. What that allows us is to procure very early. We can take, I mean, if we know that transformers are on the longest lead or the generators are on the longest lead, we might order those generators very close to after we sign the contract, because we know that Khazna's design, tried and tested, is going to be repeatable, and there's 3 or 4 vendors that we go to, and so we look at the vendor that has the available slots, and even before the approval of the design or the completion of the design, we'll take that calculated risk, because that's what Khazna wants us to do. as an EPC contractor. Obviously, the other things we do is we use expediters, international expediters. So that's like having consultants work in all of these countries where the factories are. And what they'll do is they'll produce a report for us every 2 weeks or every month, depending on what we ask them to do, from the factory. And so this has been used a while in the industry. We use it for the Expo, for example, Dubai Expo 2020. But what it allows you is you don't have to send your people to these factories to check what's happening in the factories. You're using an external third-party consultant. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to see if there is going to be a delay, it gets you to see it early. Whereas normally you're in the dark until the distributor, the local distributor here says, well, it's going to be 6 weeks late, but they'll do that at the back end of when it's supposed to arrive. Whereas if we use these expediters, we know at the front end, and we're able to mitigate and change some things on site. Just to tell you how we sort of balance the quality time scenario for construction. There's on-site construction and then there's off-site construction. So on-site construction, highly flexible, but it produces a lot of labor. Off-site construction allows you to work in an off-site facility while doing things on-site. And traditionally, the off-site prefabrication has been traditionally sort of pushed by a lot of the supply chain, where they would create these modules and whatever in containers. So with Khazna and with other clients, we need flexibility. And so if you're going to opt to go with offsite prefabrication with the supply chain, you're locked. Mm-hmm. So if we want to be vendor agnostic to use whichever vendor we need, we've figured a hybrid model.
I think that brings a lot of probably the questions that I had in my head about, again, a very complex, extremely intricate ecosystem. And again, it seems as if there are a lot of moving cogs in this machine, and there are a lot of elements that need to be considered when it comes to design and execution, and especially prospecting, as Abdulmajeed suggested earlier. It doesn't seem like something that needs to provide for today. It's a futuristic decision. And when we talk about the future, especially as the UAE and the Middle East is at large, sustainability becomes part of that conversation, because we're all aware that AI has an appetite for power. But to create resilient data-driven architecture, it's no minor feat. And as the UAE powers towards a sustainable future that also champions emerging technologies, I'm very curious about how Khazna's notable zero-waste construction and practices are evolving.
We design it as per the LEED Gold you see LEED Gold requirement, and eventually we get the LEED Gold certification from the municipality and you see the local authorities. We completely control the waste management during the construction. So we recycle and reuse wherever possible the building material. As Ramy mentioned, the prefabrication or power modules, I think this is our next episode of design. So we are moving into that space and area. So all the power infrastructure will be in a module. So it will come in a container, which is prefabricated off-site, and we'll bring it to the site. So it will be a plug and play. So what gain we'll get from this is we are doing a lot of activities off-sites. So in our requirement and our specifications, we specify a high efficient systems. So and when it comes to the selection of the MEP, so selecting the chiller, selecting the UPS, selecting all the other elements, etc., etc. It has to be in. We select an efficient system, so we reduce the loss. The losses comes with the power generation. And last but not least, I want to mention in AUH6 again. It's a facility which was designed and built by JLW, our partner. And we successfully we have tapped in 7 megawatt of solar panels into the data center. So 7 megawatts of capacity is coming from a solar panel, which was developed by Masdar City, again one of our strategic partner, and it's tapped into our grid system and into the data center. We see it as an obligation, to be honest. It's not something we do it because we have to, because we are obliged to. This comes part of our social responsibilities and our commitment to the society we are living in.
I think this is a perfect segue to get into smart building technologies and about how they are transforming data center construction. Ramy, I'm very curious about how JLW is incorporating emerging tech and automation into the construction process.
Construction and is, I would say, a dinosaur in terms of using technology to the maximum because of what it is. Now there's 3D printing, things are happening, but in terms of other market segments and how they use technology and construction usually lags a lot. What we use is for our design. So our design will use technology we'll use even AI sometimes for calculations and reports, all the repeated work, to check some of our drawings. We use 4D modeling, 4D scheduling. So we use obviously a 3D model and we add elements of the program in there so that we can see how we can sequence, and it's very important for logistics. And then sometimes we even put our costs so we can actually track our costs as and when it's going. But in terms of technology on site, we do use some robotics for they basically, you upload our 3D models, you give it to the robot will sort of point in an area, and that will be the exact point that someone needs to put in an anchor, for example. So we use that to sort of less so in data centers, more so on the bigger commercial projects. Again, what that basically means is instead of doing the work on site, it's being done off site in a factory environment. So what we do, a little bit different to others, we will go to 6 or 7 factories here in the UAE. So what we'll do is we'll do a bespoke design. That bespoke design will be given to 6 or 7 different factories, and we can use any one of those 6 or 7 factories. By what they'll do is they will fabricate the bespoke design that we put together, and then our electricians and plumbers and duct fitters and pipe fitters will go into that factory with the equipment that's supposed to go on that module, and we'll put it on the module in that factory floor and send it out. Some of the 6 or 7 factories that we use, they've obviously picked up the expertise, and so what we don't need to send all our labor to their factories, but we will send our QA/QC supervisors, foremen, to check. But we can offload that work for them because once they've seen it a few times, they know how to do it. That just allows us to scale. So whilst others may have invested in their own factories for good reason, they're sort of limited to that factory's output. We are using basically without any we'll use any factory that's available in the Middle East and supplement them if they don't have the skill set.
How do you bring down the time associated with a certain project or a certain aspect of a project or design and execution?
Look, if you speed up the design, you speed up the project. So obviously using technology to speed up the design and take away the human inputs speeds up the project. The quicker you can do the design or the early stages of the design, the quicker you can order. So that speeds up the project. But generally for construction, if you're maximizing offsite prefabrication and you're using modular construction on site, prefabricated concrete, etc., what will speed up construction is not doing things out of sequence, not having to redo work, and not having to figure out something that should have been figured out beforehand on site. Those are the kind of the rules.
So you
of
can't
thumb.
operate on the fly.
No, it sometimes happens. I'm not in data centers, but it sometimes happens. But those are the three. So if you can avoid rework, if you lock in your logistics, so I was saying 4D scheduling, lock in your logistics really well. Try to tighten the sequencing rather than stagger the sequencing. Work in parallel areas, but still have enough distance and flow to work together. Those are the things that you can do in construction to make sure that you do it the first time correctly.
One of the way to you see fast track or deliver on time, or even you see deliver the project even beforehand, is to pre-order or to order the long lead item during or before the completion of the design. And it's very critical because if you want to do that with before completing the design, you should, okay, we should have the, as a team, we should have the confident that, yeah, we are not changing. So once we place the order, the designer will not go to change the design afterward. So that's the inputs from our side. And you see, at Khazna, I'm proud personally that I have a very strong engineering team. So confidently, we are pre-ordering in our projects before the completion of the design. You see, I'm allowing them. You see, we are even approving to pre-order because we are confident about our design. Because again, we have done it in the past. We have the experience, and also, and on top of everything, we have standardized the design.
I think it's very crucial that we address the complexities that come with AI workloads and how scalability plays a crucial role in this ecosystem. I'm very curious, Abdulmajeed, how do you think Khazna and JLW's partnership ensures that these data centers for the future expand seamlessly?
We have to be the project should be cost efficient. So the cost per megawatt always should stay at a competitive level. So we cannot just put whatever we want and we shoot the price up, and then this data center is not sellable. Again, into the scalability, it should be a design should be hybrid because the technology of AI is evolving every day. This is basically what you see. We should be a cost efficient. It should be future proof, and it should have enough power for the future.
To add to Abdulmajeed, the scalability aspect, they also need to be, and he doesn't say this because it's just inherent in Khazna, but they need to be an attractive client. Companies like us will want to work for them to help them achieve their goals. So that, and they've adopted that. They are in the market. They are the client. Basically, if anybody can work for Khazna, they're trying very hard to, and it's a testament to what they're doing.
I think it's very important that we discuss this long-standing collaboration then between Khazna and JLW. And of course, to execute infrastructures at such large scales that, again, cater to the future, not to the present. How do you think Khazna's partnership with JLW enhances the demand for efficiency and is able to execute the mammoth of a task that is AI enabled data centers?
You see, the partnership with JLW, we don't we it to be honest, it took us to the tier one level, because as I said, JLW present really the tier one MEP contractor in the market. So working with them, for example, from when it comes to the risk management, which for me, in execution, the project risk management and eliminating the risk. First of all, identifying the risk on time and working on mitigating or de-risking those risks, and getting that away, that from our way, it's paramount. It's very important, critical to deliver the projects on time, which really JLW, they bring that to the table. Um, their engineering team, they are very much experienced, that they highlight always the risk associated with the timeline and with the program, and immediately and collectively we are working to just de-risk those things. So I think the risk management factor, they are working very well when it comes to that. Of course, when it comes to the quality, they are delivering the project top quality to us. And you see, if anyone visit one of the sites which JLW delivered to Khazna, you can easily rank this facility as you see among the best in the market. So we are happy with our partnership with JLW.
Some projects, people talk about these partnerships where the client and the contractor and the entire stakeholders are partners. Those tend to be the ones where the client is owning and retaining his asset, right? So there are data centers and other commercial projects where the client isn't thinking to retain their asset long term, and some of them even just flip the asset when they're finished. Those are most. If you look, and this is general. I'm looking at the bell curve. The bell curve of disputes happen on those projects because there is that no partnership approach. There's a contractor, there's a consultant, there's a PMC, there's a developer. With Khazna, they're owning all of their assets. They're not only owning it, they're operating it. So, and who knows, 15 years, 30 years, whatever it is, and they adopt it. So because of that, when we're building for them, we're one of the tools that they're using to achieve whatever it is that they've set out to do. The reason why they do that and the reason why we're comfortable is because it is this partnership model, and it probably stems from them retaining their assets and operating their assets. So it is a partnership.
Well, then, in that case, I think it's very important that we look to the future and we understand the demands for AI driven infrastructures in the next 5 years. Since we've brought up the next 5 years so often in our conversation, I'm very curious, what do the both of you think will be the biggest trends, evolutions, biggest things that we're yet to see in the AI data center industry in the region and globally in the next 5 years?
I think the biggest challenge is the power readiness to accommodate all those AI requirements. So to me, the power, the power, the power. So it's all about the power now.
Ramy, what do you think?
Assuming that they solve the power problem, because we won't get involved unless they have solved the power problem. For us, it's just the foresight, right? For companies like us, we need to see what's coming so that we can plan for it ahead of time. In the past, it has been sporadic. It's been, here's a project, a couple of months later, nothing, a couple of months later, another project. But as the volume, and these guys are leading it here, as the volume increases, they're able to give us some foresight into what's coming once they solve the power problem. And then we're able to plan for whatever we can. So we can actually maximize our capacity.
And maybe also, Jennifer, you see, it's the supply chain.
Oh, yeah.
The global supply chain, as you see, it's under tremendous pressure from the AI evolution, I would say. So supply chain, and maybe also developers should change the business model, because so maybe with AI and with the supply chain challenges, we should a little bit tweak, I would say, the business model or the delivery model. Maybe we should go with building the shell and core. I mean, just allowing you see 20% of the total investment beforehand. So we have the power ready, we have the skeleton, the shelter ready. Okay, if I call it the shelter, the shell and core. And then immediately once the demand comes, we go and we do the MEP fit outs. So maybe there should, it's disruptive. Maybe the industry should change the delivery model.
Well, thank you so much, Abdulmajeed and Ramy, for this riveting conversation. I think it's clear that AI enabled data centers are designing for the future and they are set with the idea that we're going to keep evolving and our energy requirements and our reliance on data is only going to compound exponentially. But if left to trusted partners and clients, we have a bright future ahead that's data driven. And to our audience, thank you for listening to this episode of Shaping the Future of Digital Infrastructures. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe to more episodes on understanding the transformative power behind technology and innovation. Until next time, stay curious.